Hello folks. Today I wanted to go over a system I've been developing that will let you copy a Google Site portfolio into each student's folder. Now the problem with AppScript is that you can't directly make a copy of a Google Site with AppScript. And so what we're going to do is instead, what you can do with AppScript is you can make a copy of a folder and all its contents, and if there happens to be a Google Site portfolio template in that folder, then we can create a identical student portfolio site template for each student. Let's see how we did this. First of all, a couple of things that I've done. I've already built this system and I've run through it a few times. First of all, what we would want to do is find the folder where we want to build these student folders. So let me come back here. You can see I have a folder called Add a Site to a Folder, and I have this URL of that folder. Now I've copied that and I've pasted it here. So this is the Add Site to a Folder. I'm going to use this in my script. I'll show you where here. When I first of all am creating adding a portfolio, I am getting the roster sheet, that's this sheet that we're on, and I'm getting the value that's in G1. That happens to be the main folder URL. We will use that. So if you make a copy of this, you would want to put your folder URL inside of this cell. And then this is an important formula. I am not going to type in this column because it's a formula that's going to build my first name, last name, and last name, comma, first name, and my graduation year, because that's what I want my folder to be called. And when we run this script, we first of all are going to create our folders. So let's take a look at the app script. First, let's take at the menu app script. Take a look at the menu app script. This is the onOpen function, and we are creating a menu called Add Student Portfolios, under which we have create student folders, check and add portfolios, add a text file. So you can see we are adding these items. So that's a simple onOpen menu. Let's go on to the create folders. So what we're doing is getting from the roster sheet. Here's our roster sheet. We are getting the names in A. So we're getting everything that's in A, which we have built these names because we want to name our folders like that. We're getting those values. And then we're going to get our parent folder, and the parent folder where these are going to be built, this is important, is where this spreadsheet, so this spreadsheet is actually located in this folder. So that's how we're getting the folder ID that we're going to use for this function. We're getting it from this particular spreadsheet. Then we want to do a counter. I want to know how many folders are added, how many folders are skipped, and then we're taking our names that we're getting here, and for each one of those names, we're going to let the folder name equal that name. So we have that value. We're going to use that name. We first want to check if that folder exists. So we're going to run this part of the function where find the existing folders, and if the existing folder exists, we're going to add to the counter called folder skipped and just stop the script for that particular row. If there is no folder, we're going to create the folder, new folder, and that parent folder, which we've gotten, it's where the spreadsheet lives, we're going to create a folder and give it the folder name, which is this name. And then we're going to get its URL of that new folder. And we're going to then grab this cell here. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, column 5. So we're going to add the index. We're going to get column 5, and we're going to get the cell where we're going to place. We're going to set the value of this new URL. So that's how we're collecting the URLs for our new folders. And then when the script finishes, I want the user to get an alert showing how many folders were added and how many folders were skipped. And in one function in here, we called another function, get folder by name, and that function we're including down here. So those are the menu and the create folders functions. Let's try out this folders function. So right now, I have no new names here. So let's run the create student folders and see what happens. We don't have any new names there, so what we should get is folders added equals 0, folders skipped equals 11. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and put in a new name. Let's do a new name of Wells Jim, and Jim's a 2031. So notice we're building that name. Now let's run this create student folders again, and in a moment we should see that we have skipped 11 and added 1. And then the script puts in my URL, and you can see there's the folder. If I came back here, probably need to refresh, you will see that I have a folder now for Wells Gym 2031. The script perspective, you can see where we have our folders added, starting at 0, skipped, starting at 0, and then we're adding them here. Folder skipped, we're adding to that each time it skips one, and here we're adding folders whenever we add one, and that's how we're getting this information here. So you can see now, oh, and then here you can see we're setting the value, like we said, of that new folder URL here with these two pieces of the function. So that function is working great, and one of the things that I've added here is a formula that will create a link to a portfolio once we've added one, if we name the portfolio correctly. Right now this would not work. I'll just show you because we don't even have a portfolio over there. So the next function is under our menu is to check and add portfolios. Let's see how that works. Let's look at our add portfolio script. So first of all, we're getting from the roster sheet our range G1, and then we need to get the folder ID because we're getting the folder URL. So we're using this script here to get the main folder URL, and using this regular expression, we're getting the ID extracted from the URL. And then if this is just a check, if there's no match, then you're going to get a prompt that says, you don't have a valid URL in that folder ID where you're supposed to put it. So then we're looking for the main folder. If we get a match, we're going to get that main folder ID. And then we have a template folder ID, and that is the folder that we have where we have the student portfolios. So we have a template portfolio inside of this folder ID, and the template folder, we're going to open it up. We're going to get all these student subfolders. So we're going to take a look in this folder. We're going to get all these student folders, and we're going to extract their names because we're looking for the first name, last name. So we're going to find those names, and if we find one of those, then we would not, then we're going to look inside of each one of those, and we're going to look and see if the portfolio file name, if we have a first name, last name student portfolio. If it doesn't, we're going to actually, here we're creating that, and we're going to check if any file with student portfolio already exists in the student folder, and we're going to check for that. And if it doesn't, we're going to get if we do find a student portfolio inside of a folder, we're going to skip it. We're going to see if the student portfolio subfolder exists, and if it does, we're going to get that name, get folders by name, student portfolio, and then we're going to, if it doesn't exist, we're going to create a student portfolio, and that student portfolio would contain, it would create this folder, student portfolio, and inside that folder it's duplicating the actual portfolio. Once we get all that, we're going to rename any of the new files. So any files that happen to be in the folder template folder will get renamed with the student name. And then here we're incrementing how many portfolios are added, and we're getting a browser message returned to the user. So let's take a look here. As far as I know, I just added one new name since we looked at this. And if I go to add and check and add portfolios, what the script is doing now is iterating through each of these names here and looking inside of those student folders, and if there is no portfolio folder, it will add one. Let's see what happens. Yep, one portfolio added. That's what we expected. Let's take a look then back at our Google Drive. And here's Jim Wells. We had just created this, and now take a look. Here's our student portfolio folder. Inside is the Jim Wells student portfolio file. Now, this is a template, so I would have to do a couple things here. I'd have to name this to Jim Wells. And the other thing I need to do is go ahead and name this Jim Wells. And then if I publish this, it's going to ask me for a name to the site. Now, you can only have one Google site in a domain with a name, so you might decide how you're going to do this. Right now, I'm just leaving it the way it's taking this name here, I'm calling it Jim Wells. I'm going to go ahead and publish that. Now, right now, nobody can see that, so I think I might come here and check my, I'm going to check my publish settings. I like to remove this and do that, and then I think I'll publish this again. Now, because I've done that, and because this formula here actually builds a URL, which is sites.google.com, redtailfam.org, Jim Wells, I should be able to open up, and sure enough, I can actually access that site right from my Google Sheet. Now, in my folder for Jim Wells, if I come back here, he does not have a particular file I also wanted here. Let's take a look at some of these others. I see that there is a file that I wanted. The file looks something like this. I wanted to make sure every student folder had a particular file. So what I would do here is come back to Jim Wells and notice that he does not have a file in there. So we've added another script to add a text file, because each student folder needs one of these. Let's quickly take a look at the add text file. Again, we're getting the roster, we're getting the folder URL again, and then we're going to get the we're going to open the folder, we're going to get the student folders, and we also need to have an ID of the template. So the template that we're using to make a copy for each student is this. This is a Google Doc. It looks like this. This is its ID. We have a folder array here that's empty, and then we're going to do a count. We're going to let files added. We're going to get a count. And then while student folders has next, while there are student folders, we're going to push these student folders into this array so we know which folders we have. And then for each one of those student folders, we're going to get a student folder name. We're going to get rid of the first and last name. We're going to split that. We're going to then create a last name, first name, 2024-25 technology sheet. That's what we're going to name our file name. And then we're going to see if that file name exists. If you don't find that file name, if it doesn't exist, we're going to make a copy. And we're going to use the Drive app. We're going to get the file by ID. That's our template file ID. And we're going to get a new file. We're going to make a copy of the template file, and we're going to give it this name, and we're going to place it in that student folder. And we're going to increment our files count, and there's a couple of logger IDs, and then we're going to show a user alert showing how many files. So that is the script. Let's come back. I'm going to add a text file. I believe I would only be adding one, and let's see what the script does. And in a moment, I think it's iterating through all the others, and there you can see technology files added 1. Say OK, come back to Jim Wells's folder, and sure enough, there's Jim Wells's technology file. So a quick summary with several of these little app scripts. We have built a system where we can create student folders, put in a student portfolio for a Google site, and we could add any files that we wanted. And in fact, if the folder that we're using for the back here, when we look at the creating the portfolios, this is actually duplicating a folder, because as I said, you can't create a copy of a Google site, but you can create a Google site if it's in a folder. Any of the other files that we would want our students to have here could be inside of the folder where we find the student portfolio, and in that case, we could be duplicating all of the files that we wanted our students to have as well. So hope you enjoyed and can put this to good use.